What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get the notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, please do me a favor and yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, that does help to give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, we have to talk about how furious the Kamala Harris campaign is, how furious Democrats are, how furious Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is, and how furious the propaganda wing of the DNC, which is the mainstream media, is as well, over the fact that the Teamsters is one of the largest unions in the country, for the first time since 1996, is not endorsing a Democratic candidate. Now they have taken an official stance of not endorsing anyone this election, but what is left out of much of the mainstream media press and coverage of this is that when internal polls were done by the Teamsters, overwhelmingly the union members within the Teamsters organization want Donald Trump to be president. If it was up to the actual union members to make the decision, the Teamsters would actually officially endorse Donald Trump. And we're going to get into all of that in a moment, especially how many of these DNC news outlets aren't even reporting on this in general. But let's get into it right now. I first want to start with a clip concerning how upset AOC was at the fact that the Teamsters did not endorse Kamala Harris. And she lashed out at the president of the Teamsters Union, and he even responded to her on CNN when speaking to Dana Bash. Let's get into what AOC had to say first, and then we're going to get into the Teamster Union's president. So let's jump into this.
All right, listen to this historic move. The Teamsters announced they will not endorse a candidate for president, making Kamala Harris the first Democrat since 1996 not to get the union's backing. And New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not happy about it.
I'm very disappointed in Sean O'Brien's leadership. I have found it increasingly alarming all year. When the Teamsters are in trouble, who do they call? When we need to make sure that Teamsters pensions are bailed out, when we need to make sure that they have a fair shake at the negotiating table with rail, it was Sean O'Brien calling Democrats for help.
That is so DNC of AOC, isn't it? It is so DNC of her to feel entitled to the vote, to feel entitled to support, and to feel entitled to an endorsement. That is so DNC of her. But now, as she's ripping essentially a new one into the Teamster Union's president, he did respond to her and responded to her well when he was on CNN speaking with Dana Bash. Let's get into that next.
Get into her district where...
Let me rewind that back just a little bit.
She should maybe get into her district where it voted far Republican, far right Republican, and maybe find out what the problem is. When I have a problem in a work site and there is criticism, I get right in there and find out what.
What do you mean voted
is.
far right Republican?
In our polling,
she's a Democrat.
In our polling,
oh, you mean among Teamsters?
In our polling, New York, her district, voted overwhelmingly Republican to support former President Trump. So she may want to focus on her job instead of mine.
Nice. She may want to focus on her job in her district instead of focusing on his. Now, from his own testimony, he's been receiving, it seems like, a lot of backlash from other unions. Essentially, he was supposed to just go against his union members, right? He was supposed to go against their wishes and just endorse Kamala Harris anyways. But he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He's adhering to what the union members actually think and how they feel and how the polling actually went. And he has a very specific reason for why they're not endorsing either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, despite the fact that the union members are more in favor and in lockstep with endorsing Donald Trump. And we're going to get into that in a minute through a couple of clips. But first, let's get into how the polling worked out, the internal polling with the Teamsters union. Now, as you can see here, here is their Twitter page, and I'll make sure to blow it up a little bit for you. And let's just get into the polling data right here, right? So this is the polling data as far as internal polling is concerned from the Teamsters union, and it pans out like this. Let me scroll over here. Now, this was done Teamsters presidential town hall straw polls, voting held between April 9th and July 3rd of 2024. Biden had to lead over Trump. The Teamsters voted Biden at 44%, Trump at 36%, RFK Jr. at 5.6%, and Cornel West at 1.7%. But when Biden was forced out, because we all know that it was an inside coup, right? When he was forced out and replaced with Kamala Harris, and then the Teamsters doubled back with electronic member polling, what you see here between the dates of July 24th and September 15th of this year, Harris only gained 34% of the vote to Donald Trump's 59.6%. You just round that out, 60% of the vote. Donald Trump got 60% of the vote. And then after the DNC and the RNC, both conventions had came and went, they passed, the Teamsters Union did another poll, a research phone poll, is what they officially call it, after both the RNC and the DNC conventions passed, and the polling essentially remained the same. Kamala Harris at 31%, Trump at 58%, undecided at 6%, and don't know at 5%. So how, as you can see here, overwhelmingly, as far as union members are concerned, they are for Donald Trump. They feel that Trump is better for jobs and the economy, that he is far better than Kamala Harris. But what's interesting about this news and information is this. As you can see here in this article from a great website and news source called MRC Newsbusters, I want to scroll in just a little bit, or I should say zoom in. This article reads here, ABC, CBS refused to cover Teamsters members overwhelmingly backing Trump over Harris. And that's not surprising, right? Especially coming from ABC. I don't think any of us are surprised that they're refusing to cover this properly, right? They're not covering it properly, if at all. The article reads, ABC continued to show its hatred and bias toward former President Trump on Wednesday's World News Tonight and Thursday's Good Morning America, along with CBS's respective shows, CBS Evening News and CBS Mornings, and NBC's Today. They've refused to tell their viewers about a poll of Teamsters rank and file members showing nearly 60% support for Donald Trump and not Vice President Harris. Instead, the networks focused their efforts on how Teamsters leadership refused to endorse either candidate and went back to peddling more hate on Trump over Springfield, Ohio, thus rescuing Harris from a negative headline. Once again, thus rescuing Harris from a negative headline. ABC's chief Trump-hating correspondent, Rachel Scott, minimized the lack of Teamster endorsement, instead emphasizing on Springfield. Now, what I want to do in closing is that I want to play a compilation of videos, which comes from World News Tonight, Good Morning America, CBS Evening News, CBS Mornings, and NBC's Today. I want to play a compilation of videos that was put together by MRC Newsbusters, in which they show and highlight how each time they spoke on this situation, just as we read just now, they would show and highlight the fact that, yes, the Teamsters are not endorsing anyone. But then they would quickly pivot and lie on Donald Trump, stating that he is touting a false endorsement, when Donald Trump has never touted any type of false endorsement. He hasn't stated that the Teamsters have endorsed me. He's never said that. And if he did say that, you would think they'd have video of it in this compilation that I'm about to show you. But they don't. They're lying on him in an effort to rescue Kamala Harris, as stated in this article. Let's go through this very quickly. I want to pull this video up for you right now and just look at the biased nature of these DNC news outlets and the way they conduct themselves throughout this election process that we've been going through. Let's jump into this right now.
Powerhouse Teamsters Union announcing that for the first time in nearly 30 years, it will not endorse in the presidential race. Union President Sean O'Brien declaring neither major candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business. Both campaigns went all out for the Teamsters. Former President Donald Trump even inviting O'Brien to address the Republican National Convention.
Harris and Trump were also vying for a coveted labor endorsement from the Teamsters, but for the first time in nearly 30 years, the union says it isn't backing either presidential candidate because they weren't able to make serious commitments to the group.
Trump also made misleading claims that he won the endorsement of one of the most powerful unions in the country, the Team.
He literally did not do that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but he did not do that, and you're not going to see any proof or evidence that shows this. I just wanted to highlight that. Let's carry on.
Also made misleading claims that he won the endorsement of one of the most powerful unions in the country, the Teamsters, which has 1.3 million members. The reality, the Teamsters announced it will not be endorsing a candidate this election. Union President Sean O'Brien stating neither candidate made serious commitments to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business.
The former president also heaped praise on the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, claiming he won their endorsement.
I love the Teamsters. We won the overwhelming majority of the local chapters and the members.
But
pay attention to that when he said we won the overwhelming majority of the local chapters. I repeat, we won the overwhelming support of the local chapters. That's important that you remember that, because you're going to see how when Trump says something, it's wrong and it's bad. But when Kamala Harris and her campaign literally says the same thing, it's good. But right now, apparently, Trump is some sort of a liar, even though they haven't proved or showed any video yet stating of him saying that the Teamsters have endorsed me. They're literally lying on him, misinformation, disinformation, as they love to say on the DNC side of things.
Are always put before big business.
the former president also heaped praise on the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, claiming he won their endorsement.
I love the Teamsters. We won the overwhelming majority of the local chapters and the members.
But for the first time since 1996, the union did not endorse a presidential candidate, stating that neither Trump nor Vice President Harris provided serious commitments to the group.
On Fox News, Trump also touting a non-endorsement. The Teamsters declining to back either Trump or Vice President Harris yesterday. The first time since 1996, the union, one of the nation's largest, has opted against throwing its support behind the Democratic nominee.
That was sort of a big event. Nobody's ever expected a thing like that to happen.
The Harris campaign saying Teamsters locals across the country have already endorsed her, alongside the overwhelming majority of organized labor.
So do you see how oh my goodness, let's go back to it. Teamsters locals across the country have already endorsed her alongside the overwhelming majority of organized labor. I want you to see how when Donald Trump said the same thing, and he didn't even use the word endorsed as they keep claiming that he said that he won over the support of numerous local chapters. And you can see the proof of this once again, going back to the actual internal polling, which is where he's pulling that information from. As you can see here, he has about 60% of the rank and file union members support. So he wasn't telling a lie when he said that, but they keep framing it as if he's lying, touting an endorsement that he never touted. He's referencing their internal polling that these DNC news outlets don't want to show and highlight. He said that the local chapters, I've won over their support. And they're saying, well, he's lying about an endorsement. Yet, in the same breath, they turn around and the Harris campaign stated the same thing, but even added endorsement to it. And the DNC news outlets fact check them? Of course not. Did they say that that was a lie? Did they even look for any type of proof? Of course not. They just ran with it. They just ran with it. This is what we are up against, folks. This is the type of, dictatorial, right? Totalitarian, state-sanctioned media that we're up against in this election. They're literally lying to your face as if it's the truth when it's a bold-faced lie. Yet if you tell the truth and show documentation to prove it, as you can see on your screen, somehow that's misinformation. Let that sit on your mind for a moment as we approach closer to November 5th. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. That does it for today's news. You can see these people are in shambles. They're in complete shambles and are doing everything that they can to actually censor the truth. And with all that being said, again, please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends. And also, don't forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group and Rumble as well. That is extremely important that you follow me on Telegram and Rumble. Both my Telegram and Rumble links are in the description box below and will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time, and until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.